Hello, welcome to this brief video about schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a psychiatric disorder characterized by a loss of contact with reality and distortions in thinking, speech, perception, emotion, and behavior. It has a lifetime prevalence of approximately 1% and typically emerges during late adolescence or early adulthood. This figure shows the age of onset of mental disorders in the general population. You can see that for disorders like schizophrenia, the peak age of onset is 20.5 years of age, shown by the black curve here. Let's look at some symptoms. Positive symptoms like delusions and hallucinations reflect an excess or distortion of normal processes. Delusions are false beliefs sustained in the face of evidence that normally would be sufficient to destroy them. For example, believing that someone is after you, considering yourself a major figure in the world stage, like an entertainer or a politician, or believing that the real world does not exist or has been destroyed. Hallucinations are false perceptions that have a compelling sense of reality. Hearing voices that are not actually there is the most common type of hallucination, but you might also see, smell, taste, or feel things that are not there. And finally, disorganized thinking and speech, so talking incoherently, frequently changing topic, giving unrelated answers to questions, and coming up with new words or word combinations. Negative symptoms, on the other hand, reflect an absence of normal reactions. For example, blunted affect refers to diminished facial and emotional expression. Anhedonia is the inability to experience pleasure from positive stimuli. And asociality refers to social withdrawal. For the rest of this video, I'll walk you through some key explanations of schizophrenia, exploring various factors that may play a role. Specifically, we're going to consider drug, alcohol, and tobacco use. Nielsen and colleagues conducted a study to examine the association between alcohol, cannabis use, and other illicit substance abuse and the risk of developing schizophrenia. To do so, they used the nationwide Danish registers. Since 1968, the Danish civil registration system has actually collected information on the whole Danish population in a database. And so the Danish registers allow for large-scale studies using the entire population. This study in particular examined the health records of around 3 million people, and they found that cannabis and alcohol abuse increases the risk of schizophrenia by 5 and 3 times respectively. Abuse of hallucinogens and sedatives was also found to significantly increase the risk of developing schizophrenia, although to a lesser extent. And here you can actually see that the risk of being diagnosed with schizophrenia is strongest within a year after being diagnosed with substance abuse, especially cannabis abuse, which is the orange block. And the risk decreases in the subsequent years, but remains significant even after 10 to 15 years. Let's focus on cannabis. So cannabis is one of the world's most widely used recreational drugs. Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, is the main psychoactive component of cannabis. It's responsible for the intoxicating, mind-altering effects. Cannabis products with THC can cause changes in mood, thoughts, and perceptions of reality. 2 interesting studies were conducted in Denmark, again using the nationwide Danish registers. Both of these studies examined the health records of around 7 million people. Firstly, focusing on the past 2 decades, they found that the proportion of schizophrenia cases associated with cannabis addiction has increased 3 to 4-fold, and this is primarily due to the increasing use and potency of cannabis, potency referring to increasing THC concentrations. Secondly, they found that 30% of schizophrenia diagnoses could have been prevented, so that's about 3,000 people in total, if men from 21 to 30 years old had not developed cannabis use disorder. Finally, research suggests that people who smoke tobacco have an approximately 2-fold increased risk of schizophrenia compared with non-smokers. And there appears to be a dose-response relationship, with risk for schizophrenia substantially higher in heavy smokers, those smoking at least 10 cigarettes a day, than in light smokers, those smoking 1 to 9 cigarettes a day. Now, tobacco and tobacco smoke contain almost 5,000 different chemicals, and while nicotine is a primary component of tobacco, its direct causal relationship with schizophrenia remains under investigation. Thanks for listening.